Okay, this video is going to take us from Solidworks to our epilogue laser. We want to cut out some of these timing pulleys out of some 1/4-inch Luan plywood. So we're going to make a DXF file. We're going to bring that DXF file into Adobe Illustrator, and then we're going to prepare that for cutting. So first thing I want to do is make sure I'm looking at this file normal too. And then I'm going to right click again and go to Export as DXF. Going to get a dialog box here. Take it a step further and go to Options. We're going to make sure we enable merging, high quality DWG export, and we're going to export as splines, not polylines, and we're going to put our settings at 0.01. Okay, hit OK. Hit save. I've done this once. Okay. It's going to come up again, and we want to hit this box, which is actually going to give us a final save. Actually, we're going to hit this button. So we've got what we need. Going to close out of SolidWorks and jump into Adobe Illustrator. Now I'm going to create a new file. Oops. Pardon me. File, new. And in this dialog box, it's very important that you set the units to inches. And we're going to reset all of our units to inches, because when we import that DXF, if our units are not set correctly, we're not going to get the right size. And I'm going to go through a couple of double checks to make sure that works. Also, while we're in here, it makes sense for us to set up for the size of plywood or material that we're using. So I'm going to just say, let's say we're going to cut this out of a piece of 12 by 12 inch plywood. And I'm going to hit OK. All right, now I've got my template. I'm going to go one step further with those preferences under Edit, right here under Edit. If you go down to Preferences and go to Units, I just want to make sure that all units are set to inches. And right now, for my setup, they are. Yours probably is going to need to be readjusted. It's probably set up in points. Bring them all in, make them all set to the appropriate units. Now, if you're working in millimeters or centimeters, you could choose those, but the part that I drew, I'm exporting in inches. So I hit OK. I now want to go to File and go to Place. You can also get here by opening the part directly, but it's safer to do this. So I'm going to go to Place, and this is the most recent version. Now right here, we're going to make sure again that our units are inches, our scale is 1:1, and we're original size. When I hit OK, I get a little message about text there. Don't worry about that. Come in here and delete out this SolidWorks material here, and then I'm going to take this guy and just move it up to the upper left-hand corner. Now, there's quite a few things we need to do with this before we're ready to cut. Now, number one importance is to confirm the size of this. So I'm going to go under under View, and show my rulers. Okay, so if I turn the rulers on, this is a basic way for me to know how big we are. And if I come in here, this is where my origin is. If I set this here, looks like that's about 1/2 inch. So that looks like that is the right scale. If I knew the diameter of this pulley, I could confirm, because I've got my units here set in inches and I know how big it is. I've had a number of students bring things in and cut them way too big or too small. So our units are set correctly. Next thing we need to do is join all of these. These are individual items right now. So if you select, I'm going to have you select everything on the outside, and then come in here, hold the Shift key, I want to deselect the items on the inside. So those aren't selected. I'm going to come up here under Object, go to Path, and go to Join. So now they're one path when we click on this. Do the same thing on the inside now. I'm going to select these guys, go to Object, go to Path, and go to Join. I'll be there in 2 minutes, Mr. Goss. All right, so we've got them joined. Next order of business is to select all of those and change the stroke to 0.001. This is important. You change it to 1/1000th of an inch because the laser cutter is only going to recognize a vector file if it's 1/1000th of an inch thick. Anything thicker than that, it's going to think it's a raster, and it's going to do an engraving operation instead of a cutting operation. So I'm moving this up here. So I've brought this in, I've joined my paths, and I've set them to the right thickness. Now, I'm going to pull in real tight here because although it's a laser, it does remove some material. And we've determined for 1/4" plywood, we're removing about 3.5 thousandths. So if this is a timing gear and this is a 1/2 inch hex, it's not going to fit properly unless we compensate for that distance. So I'm going to select my outer path, and I'm going to go to Object, go to Path, and I'm going to offset the path. And I'm going to offset it the distance of the kerf of my laser, which is 0.0035. And I'm going to hit OK. Notice that it's created another path outside my inner path. So now I'm going to zoom in really tight, and I'm going to make sure I delete the right path. I want my laser to cut on the outer path to compensate for the kerf. So I'm going to select the inner path and delete it. Whoops. It's not deleting all of it. There it is. All right, so now I've got the inner path gone, and I'm compensating. Now in this case, we've got to deal with the hex here, and we want to do the offset in the opposite direction. So I've got my hexagon selected. Again, I'm going to go to Path, and I'm going to go to Offset Path. But in this case, I want to put a negative value in. So the same amount, 0.0035, which is the kerf of our laser. But if I put a negative in there and I hit OK, you'll see that it offsets the tool path towards the inside, which is what I need to do. Still need to get rid of this one on the outside. So sometimes when you do that, it'll join the two paths together. So you need to right-click and ungroup them first, and then we can go in and go ahead and delete the outside path. So if it selects both of them, just remember to right-click, ungroup them. So now I have my offset for my laser kerf and my offset for the outer part of the gear, and I'm all set. Now, I could right-click and group these things together, which is a safe thing to do, especially if you plan on moving it, because you want to make sure that your hex is shares the same center, concentric with your gear. So now if I wanted to make a couple of these, I could just do a copy and paste, and then make multiple timing gears if I needed to do that. Once I'm set, I'm going to go ahead and save this. And you might want to save it if you have access to the tech drive. You could save it right to the laser jobs, and it will be on that computer ready to go. So I'm just going to put whoops, demo gear. I'll do that. All right,